Hey guys, I'm I3 Pro Paulie V. I grew up as a skinny, shy, insecure kid. I actually got picked on quite a lot for being skinny and Asian. I grew up in a predominantly white and Aboriginal neighborhood, and because of being picked on, I found myself to be very isolated. I kept to myself, played a lot of computer games, watched a lot of anime, stuff like that. And my self-esteem was very, very low growing up. Eventually, when I got to like 18, 19, I was sick of it. I was like 55 kilos soaking wet, and I wanted to make a change. So I got into the gym to make myself feel better, started to put on muscle, and when I was about 22, out of a bit of a whim, I decided to do a bodybuilding show, and I ended up actually doing really well and fell in love with bodybuilding. Competed almost every year since I was 22, and I actually ended up turning pro when I was 27. Soon after, COVID hit, and I went into a bit of a mental spiral and faced a lot of depression and questions as to if bodybuilding was still for me, and if I was genuinely happy still chasing my dreams as a bodybuilder. And then ultimately that led me to retire. So COVID came around, and obviously a lot of us were isolated. I was actually fortunate enough to still be able to train. However, I really felt that isolation because when I was bodybuilding, I really isolated myself the whole time. Bodybuilding can be a very restrictive lifestyle. You've obviously got to follow a diet, be regimented with your lifestyle, not go out, drink, party. And because of that, I felt like at the time, the best way to do it was to do it on my own, like be a lone soldier. And when COVID lockdowns came around, I kind of realized like that's how I was spending my whole life. And despite having success in bodybuilding, I felt like I didn't really have much connection around me. I was single, really struggled to find romance, didn't have a whole lot of friends around me. And then, the friends that were around me were, they were into partying. That's what they did. They go out, get fucked up. And, it was easier for me to just not be around them. So, again, I became very isolated, and I faced the challenge of asking myself if bodybuilding was still making me happy. Like, I was so passionate about bodybuilding, but I immaturely blamed it for the reason why my life wasn't the way I wanted it. Why, I couldn't find a partner, why I couldn't find genuine connections around me. And then ultimately that led me to give up bodybuilding to, I guess, try to fit in and try to find that circle around me. So after I retired, I battled with a bit of an identity crisis. I spent most of my 20s as the bodybuilder. I was the pro bodybuilder, and I really didn't know what to do. As I mentioned, a lot of my friends that I had at the time, what they did was go out, party, do drugs. So I thought that's what I would do, And it was kind of fun to begin with, I have to admit, but then it really wasn't who I was. And unfortunately, I got lost in that cycle, going out, getting fucked up, doing a bunch of drugs every weekend, feeling really shit, and then just doing it again every single weekend. It was really tough for me because I was still battling in my mind the idea of bodybuilding. It's, you know, something I was still very passionate about, but I just mentally and emotionally wasn't in a spot to pursue it. So I wasn't, and I was, like I said, trying to find where I belong. And at the time I thought that was the normal thing to do. And after like 2 to 3 years of constantly being fucked up every fucking weekend, doing copious amounts of drugs, I just knew that something needed to change dramatically. Otherwise, I'll just continue going down that spiral and I'd feel really unhappy. So I made the decision that I needed to move. At the time, I was living in Perth, born and raised, and I decided I'm gonna uproot and move to Melbourne. It was a really scary move, just because obviously like all my friends and family, everything I knew was in Perth. That's where my whole life was. At the time, I was a full-time one-on-one personal trainer as well. So I had to leave that all behind, literally like overnight, just lose pretty much most of my income just to move to another city, to start a new life with, you know, people I don't know. And yeah, it was tough, it was scary. I packed my dog up, Dougie, and we shifted across the country and landed in Melbourne. So the clean slate in Melbourne was a great way for me to actually be able to recreate the environment that I would want to be in. So, you know, as soon as I got here, I moved close to one gym, which is where I still train. It's a bodybuilding gym here in Melbourne. So I knew that like I'd be around obviously other bodybuilders. I was very fortunate enough to meet a couple guys at the gym. My good friend Will, and also my now training partner Louis. And it was just really, really good to be surrounded by people who had like the same passion and had the same sort of drive, because it pushes you and also makes you feel like you're not missing out. Like going back to my old friends, and, you know, like nothing against my old friends, like if people want to party, they want to do that, like that's no judgment, but that's obviously not what I want to do. But of course, like if you're surrounded by people who want to party, want to get fucked up, you're going to feel left out, right? So now that I'm around people who enjoy going to the gym, who enjoy eating well, then I'm not going to feel left out. And then soon after that, I was very, very fortunate to just run into my now partner, Jerry. And, you know, she's obviously been an absolute blessing in my life. She's into fitness, obviously not like she's not a competitor, but she understands what I do. She goes to the gym. She eats well. She now cooks for me, which is amazing. And the environment that I just have around me just made it a lot easier for myself to be able to chase that passion again. And, you know, slowly over time, it came back. I was able to start bodybuilding again. And then fast forward 2 years, I am now making my return to bodybuilding after 6 years of not competing. The prep itself this time around has actually been the easiest prep I've ever done. I feel like I've grown quite a lot through all the challenges that I've faced. After retiring, obviously, you know, I battled through quite a lot. It taught me a lot of lessons. And now that I'm coming back, I am truly grateful that the passion has returned. So I'm just happy to have reignited this fire in me, and the process has been so much easier. I've learned from a lot of the mistakes I've did in the past when competing, you know, like not isolating myself, surrounding myself with good people, not being too tunnel vision with bodybuilding, and still making sure that I'm putting in a lot of effort to the other areas of my life as well. yeah, it's been an amazing prep, and hopefully this is a sign of things to come, because I really want to come back into this sport and chase my goals again. So it's the challenges I faced during this prep would be the things outside of prep. Unfortunately, about 2 months into my prep, I got news from the doctors that I actually need urgent kidney surgery. It was tough to hear. It was kind of like out of the blue. I had a bit of pain in my left side, and we ran some tests, and they've pretty much told me that my left kidney is losing function, and they would recommend a emergency surgery, which really sucked, because obviously I spent all this time trying to get back into bodybuilding, making my comeback after 6 years. I'm literally like 2 months into prep, and I get the call like, you need to have surgery. And obviously if I have that surgery, then the prep's finished. So that's something that I've been dealing with like pretty quietly, to be honest. And I'm still consulting with the doctors at this point in time. And it's making me it made me question a little bit like whether or not this was worth doing, but it absolutely is. Like I'm thriving and enjoying what I'm doing, but definitely a huge challenge. The second thing is like quite recently, my grandma passed away, and the crazy thing about it was like the last prep I did, my other grandma passed away. And again, like I know it's probably just pure coincidence, but it's just like, fuck, every time I chase these goals of mine, like something comes up. And the hardest thing about that was the funeral was literally last week, and my mum wanted me to fly back to Vietnam, and I just wasn't able to, like if I'm truly going to commit to this prep and come in the best I can, I can't be, flying to Vietnam for a week. And that obviously like hurt my mum, which was really tough. After all these years, like she obviously supports my bodybuilding, but it's something that she still doesn't quite understand, like she's still of the opinion that like, what's a week off plan gonna do? And obviously her mum just died. So it was really, really tough for me to not be there. But that's just the decision that I've made to be the best version of myself. And hopefully, when I get up on that stage, I can do my best and I can make both my grandma, rest in peace, and my mum proud. I'm not coming into this show expecting to win. It's been 6 years since I've competed, and I really just want to go into this show and bring in my absolute best. Now, I do think my absolute best definitely would place top 5 and potentially win. Obviously, with competition, it just kind of depends on who shows up on the day. However, over these years, like my mental and emotional maturity has evolved, where I'm not purely focused on winning, purely focused on the outcome. I am driven by the process, and by being driven by the process, I've been able to enjoy the journey a lot more. And yeah, it's been really, really good. So I'm just gonna enjoy every single day, every single week as much as I can in the lead up, and obviously do my best to enjoy the day itself. And wherever I land is where I land. But I'm definitely gonna make sure that I do everything that I need to do to put myself in the best position to win.